Hello, everyone. I'm just going to be waiting for a couple more people to join the stream. I'm going to just kind of be waiting for now until more people start coming in. But what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And pretty much as of right now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking over just going over 2024 as usual. I am going to be doing this as a road to 8K kind of stream. So guys, make sure if you're joining the stream and you're watching, hit the like button right now. I want to try to get the view count to match the likes as much as possible. So if you guys are here, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe as well. We are on the road to 8K subscribers. We are literally like less than 200 away from making it to the goal. So hopefully we can try to get there tonight. I will try to stream as long as I possibly can here. However, I do have finals coming up, so I am going to be a little bit busy with that. But hopefully I can try to tackle these as much as I possibly can. Now, I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everybody's having a good day. And pretty much as of right now, again, just as usual, Biden is in a really tough spot. It's just the truth. I mean, Biden is not in a formidable spot right now. Are you going to be in VC? No, I'm not doing VC for this stream. Guys, make sure to hit the like button. Please, please hit the like button right now. Please make sure to do that. What I am going to do is I am going to do a house prediction. So what I'll actually do is I'm going to go to 270 to do the house prediction because they have most of the map filled out and I don't feel like filling out the rest of the entirety of the map. I will just kind of be doing the closer races pretty much. And so I could see here they've actually updated this after like quite a while. I guess like some of the primaries are over and I guess they have the candidate names here. So that's pretty interesting. But as of right now, oh, nope, don't want to go there. I hate that there's so many ads on here. But either way, so pretty much right now, we can see here that for the House, there's about 23 competitive seats, 12 lean Democratic seats, and 9 Republican leaning seats. Honestly, I think with Mary Patola, it really depends because when you have one Republican, there is polling that shows that it is tied. However, I feel like she might be able to hold on just because she does have a good approval rating. If we look at this seat, I'd say that more than likely this Republican does hold on. They held on in 2022. And on top of that, they also managed, the district was pretty close on the presidential level, but the Republican was able to win in 2022. And I think if Trump's improving nationwide, more than likely that Republican's going to be able to cross the finish line. Same thing for this guy as well. John Duarte, it's a little rough just because of the fact that their political polarization, especially in presidential years, is a big deal. I'd say maybe in the 13th district, this guy goes down. Vallejo, maybe he goes down too, but I think Mike Garcia will probably hold on. Ken Calver, I think, will hold on. I think Michelle Steele will probably hold on as well. Katie Porter is running for U.S. Senate, and these are the two candidates in that district. I'd say that more than likely the Democrat does hold just because Biden, even though he'll unimprove in the district, like he'll do a little worse, I think in fact it'll be a lot better for the Democrat nationally overall. I think Lauren Boebert, the thing is she's switching now to run in the Colorado 4th primary, but this Republican district, voted for Trump by quite a bit. I'd say the Republican probably holds on there. That cycle, Colorado's 8th. If we look at that, I'm going to say the Democrat probably holds on because of the fact that if you look at it, Colorado's a very left trending state overall, and I think that because of the fact that it is a left trending state and this district voted for Biden by almost 5, I feel like more than likely she will probably be able to hold on in the next election. Connecticut's 5th. I believe that the Democrat will probably be able to hold on as well. I think if we go to Iowa's 3rd, I think the Republican will probably be able to win. I also think Illinois 17th they'll win. I think in Indiana's first, that Democrat's gonna win more than likely. I think Jared Golden, it's rough, but I think the Democrat might be able to actually, or I think Jared Golden. See, the problem is that he is an electoral juggernaut here for the most part, but I think Trump's gonna win the district by upwards of almost 15 points, and so I can't really see Jared Golden holding on, so they might be able to pick up that district. I think Michigan's seventh is going to flip. The incumbent is running for Senate now, and on top of that, the district was really close in 2020. And so I think because of that, it'll probably be an insta flip for Republicans, especially if Trump is winning the state by quite a couple points. If we go to Michigan's eighth, I'd say that this Democrat probably holds on. They are a pretty long term incumbent. And if you look, they won by 10 points in 2022. And on top of that, the presidential ticket level seems like it's a 2 point district. So I think they may be able to hold on. Don Davis, more than likely, they might actually go down because I believe North Carolina's first is a right trending district and they won by a pretty close margin in 2020 here. So I'd assume Trump might be able to flip that district. And so more than likely, they'll probably be able to flip that. Nebraska's second is interesting because they have a Republican candidate, yet the presidential candidate, Joe Biden, won it by 6.6 percentage points last time. And so it is interesting. I think the Democrat might be able to win this district in 2024 just because polling there doesn't look good for him. But that is for now. New Jersey seventh. The Republican was able to win there. It's a pretty close Democratic county. I'd say they might be able to hold just because Trump, I think, is going to make gains in the state. He probably loses it only from like 7 to 10 points, 7 to 12 points nationwide. He probably loses New Jersey by. So if that is the logic, then he will probably be able to hold on. If you look at New Mexico, I think that it's a little rough. I think maybe they do hold on, just because of the fact that it is a very likely Biden district. And even though they won by a close margin in 2022, I still think they might be able to hold on overall. If we look at Susie Lee, if you see right now, she's pretty favored to win that district in Nevada. New York's fourth, Anthony Despacito. The district in 2020 was a 14-point win. And I think Trump is going to make gains nationwide, especially in New York. And if he's winning New York or he's losing it by 9 points, like a new poll out of New York City suggests, then he probably is going to actually going to be able to hold all of these people's seats more than likely. He probably will be able to do so. It's very interesting because this Democratic senator has been, excuse me, House rep has been around for quite some time. And if you look at them, this is their 21st term. They won by 13 in 2022. And if you look at this district, it is a 3-point win. I'd say she probably holds on. However, Amelia Skies, I'd say, probably goes down just because of the fact that it did vote for her by a lot in 2022, but the district is close on the national level. And I expect Trump to win the state by double digits. So that might be a big issue coming up. I think Lori Chavez probably in Oregon maybe goes down just because Oregon is a pretty Democratic state. And even though Trump is going to make gains, I can't really see her doing that well. I think Pennsylvania 7th does flip because of the fact the district is so close on the presidential level as well as the midterm level. So I think that is going to be a flip. I think Pennsylvania's 8th might even potentially be a flip, especially if the environment is Trump +2. I could see that definitely being the case. If we go to the next last district here that's competitive, Washington's third. I think the Republicans going to be able to win it here just because the district was really close in 2022 and it is a very Republican district on the presidential level. And Trump makes gains in Washington, that district is bound to go Republican. So right now, Republicans have a 224 to 211 advantage in the House. So the House, I think they gain like 2 seats from what they won last time. They like net themselves 2 seats. Now they lose a couple seats and it depends on certain candidates and stuff like that. Like if certain candidates are electoral juggernauts, some seats may go one way or another. But this is roughly where I'm looking at in terms of the House. So the House is still pretty close, but I think Republicans do narrowly hold the House as of right now. And by the way, about New York, if we look at this New York City poll, you'll see that there was a new poll out of New York City, and it was really, really looking bad for Biden. Like it is not, it was not that good. I'm actually gonna try to find it here, but it's looking really, really bad. It's to the point, look, it's not even coming up here. Let's see if here it is. So if the presidential election was held today, who would you vote for? And you have in New York City, Biden is sitting at 52% overall. Trump is at 25% here. So, and the third party candidates are eating into Biden's margins. But if we were to pull up Election Shuffler, Red Eagle actually talked about this recently. But if we actually pull this up, right, and we go and edit the Electoral College map here, and we go to New York, and we go to some of these counties that the poll is talking about, right? Like if we go to the Bronx, for example, so that would more than likely be over here. You could see the margin is a plus 27 lead in the poll, but Biden won it by 67 points. So if you were to shift this all the way down to a 27-point win for Biden, that cuts the lead by quite a bit. And that puts Trump 2 points closer to winning the popular vote in the state. It literally cuts Biden's margin down by two in that one county. If we go to Brooklyn, which I believe, I'm not exactly sure what that would be actually. If anybody could put that in the comments, let's actually look Brooklyn in what county in New York is Brooklyn in? In Kings County. So it would be this one. So over here, we can see in Brooklyn, he's only up by 39. Here he was up by 55. So we do shift this over to a 39-point victory. Again, that cuts Biden's lead down by another point. Red Facts versus Blue Fiction with Harry Z says, "Hi, I love your channel. I've been watching you since you started, I believe. Thank you very much. I appreciate that." And so if we keep looking at this, for example, here, that already puts the margin down. Manhattan, which is basically New York County, pretty much here, that is a 51-point lead for Biden. That cuts down the margin very significantly here as of right now. That puts Biden at an even lower point in the state. And if we were to look at Queens, which is right over here, it's only an 11-point win for Biden when he won it by 45 points, which is a very, very big shift in the state overall. That puts Biden at a 14-point win. And if we edit Richmond, which is where Staten Island is, pretty much, it is a 36-point win for Trump. So that basically puts Trump, if we were to look now, he's down by 14 points. And if we were to edit, if we were to go over here and edit these two counties over here, which are trending pretty Republican by quite a decent amount, if we were to shift these over by a tiny bit here, and maybe Nashua County is still Democratic, for example. Let's say it is still Democrat. Or maybe even possibly flips, to be honest, especially with all the shifts we're looking at. Let's say it does flip. And let's say, this probably does flip as well because it was very close here. So let's say that is the case. Biden's margin in the entire state gets cut down to 11 points, which is where the margin had it at before. And if you look at this, I haven't even touched the rest of the state. I literally haven't even touched the rest of the state at all, which usually the rest of the state uniformly shifted together. The rest of the state shifted together in the Democrats' direction, besides New York City, where Trump actually made gains in 2020, which is pretty interesting. And so if we were to shift the rest of the state by just a couple of points to the right, if we were to shift everything to the right, that literally cuts Biden's lead down to a 9-point victory in the state. So if Biden is doing that good in New York, he's probably doing well enough in Pennsylvania to win. He's probably doing good enough in northeastern Pennsylvania to win. And if you look, that cuts Biden's lead down in the popular vote by almost a whole point. If we were to go to Florida, for example, if Trump's winning Miami-Dade by like, probably 5 points, to be completely honest, if he's winning that by like 5 points, so let's say he's winning that by five, that boosts his margin up to 4 points. If he's flipping Pinellas by like a couple points, so let's say he's flipping this by like a few points. Let's say Hillsborough is like pretty close. Maybe he actually even flips it in this scenario. He probably might, to be honest. Osceola County would probably get within a couple single digits. Orange County would get within 15 points in this scenario. Seminole would definitely end up flipping in his column 100%. There's no doubt about that. Oh, that is very weird. That is weird. I don't know why it shifted that way. Ah, this county's acting weird. Well, either way, yeah, this county's acting a little strange, but either way, like his margin here would be significantly bigger, and that would help Trump in the popular vote quite a bit. You see, that literally cuts his lead down from a point as to where it was beforehand. So it is a really big deal that some of these big states, do shift massively. Even Texas, for example, if Trump starts making gains, in some of these counties down here, it's going to be a problem for him. It really is going to be a big issue. If Trump makes gains like he did in 2020 in some of these border counties here, if he's really shifting these very significantly Republican, if you look at that, that boosts his lead in the state by a point. And if he's making gains in like rural Texas, he's trending the suburbs this way. He's improving in Fort Bend and Harris and a couple other places. He probably gets a state close to where he won it by in 20 probably close to where he won it by in 2016, maybe even more than that. And so that's already a big deal too. And so that puts Biden's lead in the popular vote down to 3 points. And forget about California, because if you were to do California and you shifted the state to like basically a 16-point win where my model has it right now, that cuts Biden's lead down to 2 points in the popular vote. So that's kind of the thing. It's very like, I don't know. It's looking very, very weird. And if you were to put Trump winning, Florida by 13 points, that cuts Biden's lead down in the popular vote a point and a half. So just touching the big states, literally just touching the big states, he's already he's already down in a point in the popular vote. And that's not even me touching the rural states, touching any of the competitive states, touching any democratic states. Already Biden's already lead is already cut down to like a point in the popular vote. So for people that are saying, "Oh my god, it's completely impossible for Trump to win the popular vote," it's really not that impossible. If Trump is making gains according to the popular vote, or at least making gains according to the averages in the polls, Trump might be able to actually do pretty well in the popular vote. He might be able to win it. Now, there is a wild card about this, because Trump should really try to vow for the popular vote, because there is a very wild card thing here that I think would be very interesting to a lot of people, which is called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which basically means the compact is designed to ensure that the candidate who receives the most votes nationwide is elected president, and it would come to effect only when it would guarantee that outcome. So, pretty much, let's say that, for example, let's say Trump, for whatever reason, right, is losing the electoral college but wins the popular vote, which I doubt that would happen. So, but let's say the election's very close. Let's say Biden is about here in the electoral college. It's like 270 or whatever. Let's say this is the case, right? That Biden is barely winning the electoral college. Let's say this would be the hypothetical scenario, right? And so this is what we would be looking at. And if we look at this, according to this compact, all of the electors that they would basically have to give the candidate who's winning the popular vote to ensure their victory. And it says this would only come to effect when giving all of those electoral votes would guarantee that victor's outcome. And since Donald Trump it would be winning the popular vote theoretically, but losing the electoral college. He would get California, he'd get Oregon, he'd get Washington, he would end up getting Minnesota, he'd get Illinois in this case, he'd end up getting Colorado, New Mexico. He would also end up getting Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and he would also end up getting New York and Maine, and presumably all of the electors. And so, funny enough, if Trump were to lose the electoral college but win the popular vote, this would probably end up being the final result because that interstate compact has to reward their electoral votes. All the states came together and they pledged their electoral college votes that if some candidate is losing the electoral college, for example, like basically, like for example, Biden can't do that because the thing with Biden is that Biden already wins the popular vote. So if Biden is losing the electoral college but winning the popular vote, he's probably getting all those states already. He would already have Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Minnesota, Illinois. It's a bunch of Democratic states that have that in place already. So Biden would already be getting those electoral votes if that were to be the case. But if it's the other way around, there could be a possibility where the pact would have to go in a certain direction. And so that could be a very wild card scenario that could occur in 2020 if circumstances get very dire for Trump, then that might possibly be able to kick into effect. However, I do believe Trump has a very the compact only matters if all of its states plus DC combined make up 270. If that happened, it would quite possibly be a civil war. I mean, yeah, that would definitely be true. I wouldn't be surprised if that would happen. I think it would be a civil war if that were to actually happen. But really, Trump's path to victory is very easy because Georgia. Here's the problem with Biden in Georgia. The problem with Biden in Georgia is that it's not looking good because if Atlanta shifts, I'm gonna do this, right? You guys are gonna be like, oh my God. If you go to Atlanta and you literally shift all these counties 2 points Republican, let's say even a point Republican, Trump already wins the state. He already wins. He wins already. He already wins the state. If Atlanta shifts a point Republican, it's over. He already wins Georgia. And Pennsylvania, if we were to go to Pennsylvania, if Trump is over here, he shifts the state just a tiny bit Republican, he ends up winning. It's not that hard. Literally, if he gains in Philadelphia, which I think he will, because he made gains there in 2020, if he gains like a couple points here, let's say he gains like maybe 4 points here, that cuts Biden's. Well, actually, wait, that's why did it do that? That's weird. Sometimes the election shuffle is kind of weird. Let me reset state. There it goes. I think that's what was wrong. Um, but if we were to go to Philadelphia and shift this literally just 4 points more to the right, that would cut Biden's lead significantly in the state. And if Trump is doing pretty decent in the rest of the states, so like let's say he's doing good in like the rest of the counties, for example. Let's say he's in some of these like all these other counties. Let's say he's doing like significantly better in some of these western Pennsylvania counties or for whatever reason. Let's say that's the case, right? And he makes gains in a bunch of like rural counties. If he were to do this, if he were to make literally just minor gains, literally like a 2 point shift, Trump wins Pennsylvania. So the math for him to win is really not that hard. It is not that hard for him to win this election. It's actually fairly easy. He just needs to get his rural turnout pretty high and he needs to make sure that he does decent enough with African American voters. But in reality, so that's really all it is. I think that I mean I can't see Biden if Biden is polling way worse with African American voters nationwide. I can't see him making gains in Atlanta. I just can't see him doing it. I literally cannot see him making gains whatsoever. So if we were to shift the whole state a point Republican. Literally just 1 point, he ends up winning the state by a tilt margin. And that's with Cobb County being literally like a point closer, which I think these are still going to be quite a bit closer. So that it's an issue for Biden because Biden's coalition is very unsustainable to hold on to. It's a really, really challenging coalition to hold on to. Literally, Biden would have to perform basically perfect. It would have to be perfect in order for that to be the case. And if we were to go down to this election model, I mean, young voters are going to shift Republican, I think, no matter what, by a couple points, as well as 30 to 44-year-old. I also think that, 45 to 64 is also going to shift right as well. That puts Trump at 298. And if he shifts seniors by a couple points, that puts Trump at 313 electoral votes already, and the popular votes tied. College educated get voters get a little bit closer. Non-college, it gets a little bit more Republican. Female voters shift Democrat. I think that's going to happen no matter what. I think they're going to get more. However, male voters, I suspect, are going to shift more Republican. So that kind of offsets that trend. I think that poor voters like 30 under 30K are going to shift a little bit more to the right. And I think that 30 to 60K is going to flip Republican. I think 60 to 100K is going to shift. I think the only demographic in income that's going to shift more Democrat is rich voters. Significantly 100K or more, I think are going to shift a couple points more to the left. And that puts Trump 327. He's leading the popular vote by about 4. And here, if you look at demographics, if he cuts his lead down with blacks, to like 70% or maybe like 60 in the high 60s, Hispanics go down by like a couple points. So let's say Trump's only losing them by less than like 20, and other, goes up a little bit, for Trump, and white voters shift a couple points to the right. He's winning 357 electoral votes and wins the popular vote by 10. So that electoral college scenario of, for example, when Trump was winning by 10 points in that like Washington Post poll back in like like the end of last year, people were like, whoa, and people were looking at the demographics. I'm like, this can't be. And these demographics are pretty similar to that poll, and Trump is winning this by 10 points. Now, for Biden to make that up in today's climate, he would have to narrow up senior votes by a couple points, probably get it within a couple points. He'd probably have to get it under 5. Trump probably would only have to win them by 3. College educated voters, he'd have to maintain his support or actually expand with them. He'd have to gain with them, have female votes shift significantly Democrat. He'd have to basically stabilize the base with under 30K votes, as well as with 30 to 60K. He'd have to stabilize his base with those, probably, shift rich voters a little bit more to the left. And on top of that, he'd have to do slightly better with blacks. He'd have to do a little bit better with Hispanics. He'd have to do a little bit worse with other voters, and white votes would have to shift Democrat. So literally, let's see yeah, look, this is the minimum Biden has to do to win. He has to win the popular vote by the same amount he won it last time, and he's gonna have to hold most of his support with college educated voters. He's gonna have to shift the senior vote very to the left as well. Hey, young man, sub to your channel a few weeks ago. Really enjoy your content. Hope your channel keeps growing through election season. Keep it up. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, and I hope it does too. Um, let's see. The problem with Atlanta, though, is that Trump does better with African Americans. The area is seeing a demographic shift. I don't really know what that means. Also, there's a lot of white guilt in Atlanta. What the hell? Okay. I want to join and talk. I'm not doing a call-in show today. Vote Trump MAGA. The circus has arrived to see sword swallowers and see the biggest dimple ass, see Mendigo, see the monkey queen in her habitat, seen Alvin the chickmunk. Yep, on display. Okay. So guys, this is what I'm going to be doing. If you guys have questions, I am going to have people super chat for questions now. So that is going to be a new thing for the channel. So if you do want to ask a question, I will only take them if they are super chats. Just FYI. So James, you're going to have to super chat for that. Just FYI. So I'm going to keep going here as of right now. And pretty much, hold on guys, give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. So pretty much, Biden would have to do damn near perfect. He'd have to do damn near perfect to hold on. I mean, Biden's path, honestly, I'd say Biden's path to winning has to be the Rust Belt because, guys, I was saying before, okay, yeah, Biden can win like this. So basically, Wisconsin would go Republican with Georgia, Nevada goes Republican, but Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania stay Democrat. And that would theoretically make sense. But the problem is that this is the issue with that. The issue with that is usually the Rust Belt has always voted together. So if you look at the Rust Belt ever since 1988, this is the last time that the states did not vote together. Wisconsin, this little pact here kind of voted together. Wisconsin voted to the left of Michigan and Pennsylvania by quite a significant amount back then. And the reason why you would say that, okay, these are all voting together now is because the coalitions are effectively pretty similar with some of these. Now, back then, it kind of seemed like Iowa and Minnesota and Wisconsin kind of used to vote together because you did kind of have these counties down here that all kind of voted Democratic together. If you kind of look at the bottom right, like at the bottom parts of these states, you'd see that like there's a lot of Democratic counties around these areas, so that's probably what drove a lot of Dem victories in some of those states, like especially this little coalition here. Because if you notice, this used to vote significantly either to the left of Michigan or Pennsylvania, or a little bit closer. Even in 2000, you could see this little demographic was pretty close, while Michigan was actually likely Democratic still, which is pretty hilarious. And even Pennsylvania was a pretty easy victory for Gore. He actually did pretty well in Western Pennsylvania overall. And so now and we look in Florida was pretty competitive here. Even like some of it's so weird looking at this because Duval was like a 16-point win for Bush back then. A 16-point win for him in 2004, and McCain only won it by like a point. And then it started just getting closer and closer over time. And then now it finally flipped Democrat with Biden, but it's kind of funny that it was such a big win. But then Miami-Dade shifted massively back to where it was basically in 2000 for the most part. It was actually funny because Bush really didn't make any gains here. He actually was pretty stagnant in Miami-Dade. He basically he gained in the state because he actually won Osceola County by a lot. He carry only won Orange County by like half a point, like less than half a point. So Bush was pretty popular in Orlando, which is kind of hilarious. Um, but either way, back on track. The thing is that the Rust Belt usually tends to vote together. So my fundamental for the cycle is if Wisconsin's voting Democrat, then Michigan and Pennsylvania have to go the same way. And so you could say, okay, maybe this happens, but not gonna lie, Nevada and Arizona pretty have very similar coalitions. So I could even make the case they also vote together too. And Georgia, I think, would be the only state that would not vote with the rest of the swing states. So I'd say Biden's path to victory is more than likely going to be just through the Rust Belt. Because if Arizona goes red, more than likely Nevada would probably also have to go red too. And so I'd probably see this being the case. More than likely Trump 268, Biden 270. This would probably be Biden's path to victory. It would be very simple. Just hold the blue wall. That's literally all he would have to do in order to hold on to it. At least hold on to the presidency. However, Biden's coalition is very, very, very slim. And if turnout is down from last cycle, he's not going to be able to make up those votes in order to be able to win. He's just simply not going to be able to do it. And so it's very important for everybody to go register, go plan when you're going to go vote, make sure to turn out when you need to turn out. Like it's very, very important that we're going to have to be, everyone's going to have to be on their A game. It's just the truth. Everybody's going to have to be on their A game when it comes very, very soon. Brute HT says looks grim. What do you mean it looks grim? Can you elaborate about that? I'm kind of curious. I don't really know exactly what you mean by what looks grim. Okay. All right. Oh my God. All right. So, as of right now, what I am going to do actually is we're going to go and I'm gonna do this for fun, just because I think that this is pretty fun to do. I am actually going to go ahead and I'm going to react to people's presidential election predictions. So, the first person I'm actually going to do is Understand Politics, who was actually pretty accurate in 2020. That for the most part, they were almost pretty spot on. But we are going to react. Well, I've seen this already, but we're going to basically analyze their prediction and kind of go over what they think is really happening
Hello,
here.
everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be doing an updated prediction for the 2024 presidential election, and I will be doing this state by state.
What do you think of the greater Idaho potential? Is that the Sir Flamalot? Is that like the scenario where like Washington, like the eastern side of Washington combines with Idaho and then Idaho's like a way bigger state because of that? That would be kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. That would give us a lot of electoral votes. We'd get quite a few extra electoral votes out of that actually.
It's been roughly a month since I last did one of these, so it is the March 2020 in the
So pretty
primary.
much they have this map of like 271 to 267. That's basically what their map is, and they pretty much have a similar coalition to 2020. I mean, they think the coalition's going to be similar, and he has Arizona as lean Democratic because he thinks that, for example, he thinks that Maricopa is going to shift massively to the left. He thinks Biden's going to gain here, which he theoretically can gain here. I have talked about this being the one swing state that Biden probably has the best chance at holding on to. I wouldn't be surprised if Maricopa ends up gaining a point for Biden. Now, if he gains a point here, for example, let's actually do the math on the election cycle. Let's say he does gain a point. Let's say he does end up making this a point more Democratic than last cycle, he'd be up in the state by like literally just a little bit more. And so if Trump were, let's say in Maricopa, he gains, literally like a point more, right? Let's say he gains like a point more in Maricopa, right? And in the rest of the state, let's say Trump improves in like the rest of the state, for example. Let's say that happens, right? He like improves in the rest of the state by like literally a point. Let's say he improves in the rest of the state by like 1 point. Biden's margin is cut down a little bit. And if we go back and do the multi-select again, and we shift this another point to the right, then that puts the state down at 0.17. And if we go back once again and we shift everything by another point to the right, so it's only a 3 point shift in the rest of the counties, by the way. It's only a 3 point shift. That's it. Trump ends up winning the state. So even if Maricopa, if Biden gains 1 point in Maricopa, Trump needs to do 3% better statewide in order to win, which is not that unrealistic because a lot of these counties have been shifting pretty Republican overall. A lot of these have been. Even if we pull up the New York Times results for 2020, you'll actually see if we look at these swings overall, a lot of these counties, especially like Graham County, Greenlee, Santa Cruz, Yuma County are shifting right. Gillette County is shifting. These were very minimal shifts, probably because the popular vote was so Democrat. So you could even make the case that those would shift. Maybe this county maybe shifts Democratic still. And Pinal, it really depends because it is closer to the border and it was a minimal shift. So you could say maybe that shifts to the right, this would shift. And so realistically, Trump can even still win the state even if Biden gains in Maricopa. Now, do I think he's going to gain in Maricopa? I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but it's a little tricky for Biden right now, especially with his coalition kind of fading away at the seams right now. And speaking about Biden's coalition fading away at the seams, the problem with that is that he is down nationwide by 16.4% in his approval rating. He is down by over 16 points and he sits at 39.6%, and we're 6.5 months away from the election, guys. Like, we're not far. And there is a case to make for a Trump landslide. Now, everybody has been telling me there's no way, it's impossible, it can't happen. How would that possibly happen? how could you say that? You're being biased, but if really looking at it, it's not that far of a stretch because if you look at this, right, let's say theoretically we go to the RCP aggregate, right? And if we go to the head-to-head matchup for Trump and Biden, so let's find it. Trump is ahead barely in the aggregate right now, but he's still ahead. But even a tied popular vote would give him a big electoral college victory. And if you go to the five-way, Trump is ahead by 1.7%. Now, what's interesting about this? Donald Trump is actually up and not up in approval rating, but he's sitting at 41.9% in approval rating, and his popular vote margin right here is 42.5. Biden is sitting at 36.9, and he's sitting at 40.8. And so the approval ratings are kind of matching what the aggregate is showing here. And historically, presidents and even some opposing candidates have always performed according to their popular vote or at least their approval rating margin. They've always kind of performed around that range. That's always where they've kind of performed. By the way, guys, if you are new, please subscribe to the channel. I see that the viewership is really peaking right now. I'm really happy about that. So thank you for that support. But guys, please make sure to subscribe and make sure to like the video as well so we can kind of get this out on the algorithm. The channel did have a pretty good day today. People were interacting with the channel quite a bit. So I am happy about that. But I still want to make sure to hit the like button, make sure to subscribe because we are on the way to 8K and we're almost there. And I'm gonna try to stream until we get to 8K. I might have to work on a couple things in a bit, but I'm gonna try to figure it out as best as I can. But please make sure to subscribe. Thank you, Rob V. I appreciate that. And so as of right now, Trump's up by 1.7% in the popular vote. Now, the polls have always underestimated him by a couple points, but there is the argument that, okay, incumbents have been underestimated in polling data by quite a bit. So let's say, okay, Biden somehow ends up outperforming the polls, right? Based out of the fact that incumbents have outperformed because Bush has outperformed polling, W. Bush, Trump outperformed polling as an incumbent, and Obama outperformed polling as an incumbent. Hey, Alan, what's up? And so, pretty much based out of that historical data, let's say Biden does outperform the polls by 3 points. Maybe, yeah. So, let's say Biden's ahead by 1.7% or so. Let's say he is ahead by 1.7%, or maybe at least, well, let's say he's up by 1.3, because that would be exactly a 3 point error, right? Even if he's up by 1.3, Trump is still winning the electoral college fairly easily. He's winning fairly easily. He is not having a hard time winning the electoral college at all. He's not. If we look at the latest model that I have here, if we were to shift this, right? All of these would probably end up being almost safe. I think Iowa, let's look at Iowa. Iowa and Ohio would be exactly above 15-point wins. Florida would not be above that territory yet. It would still be an 11-point win as of right now. Regarding Trump's immunity case, do you believe that Justice Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson ever voted to hear the case? And if so, do you believe that they have even voted not to hear it until late April? Honestly, I'm not exactly too certain about the case exactly. I'll probably have to look into that a little bit more, but I'll look into that soon. And so Florida is right below. It's an 11-point win for Trump. If we look at Texas, it's an 11.6 victory for Trump. If we look at some of these other Democratic states, California, for example, Maryland, DC, Massachusetts, Vermont are safe Democratic, for example. If we were to go to DC, obviously that would be safe Democrat. If we go to Connecticut and Delaware, they are right below the margins of being less than 15 points. And New Jersey is significantly closer as well. It's only a 9-point win as of right now for Biden. And if we look at Oregon, it's an 11-point win. Washington is a 13-point win. So that is significantly closer than before. Colorado, if we look, would be an 8.4 percentage point victory. Illinois would be a 10-point win, 10.5 percentage point win for Biden. If we were to look at New York, it would be right above the safe category as of right now. And if we were to go to North Carolina, that would be a likely margin of victory. It would be a 7.6 percentage point margin. Georgia would be almost likely. It would be a 4.9 win in the popular vote. Arizona would almost be a 5-point margin as well. If you look at Michigan, it would be a 4-point victory. If we were to look at Wisconsin, it would actually be a 5.7 victory. And if we look at Pennsylvania, even, let me find Pennsylvania, it is almost a 5-point win as well. So Trump is winning the swing states very easily in this electoral college scenario. He's winning them fairly easily. And if we look at Nevada, he's actually winning Nevada by 5 exact. And so if we go to, for example, Minnesota, Trump is down by 1.7. In New Mexico, he's down by 3.9%. If we look at Virginia, he's down by 4.4 percentage points. And in New Hampshire, he's down by 2.5 percentage points. Maine's first, I'd assume, would probably be likely. Oh, actually, it wouldn't be yet. But the second district would be safe, though. And Maine at large would actually still be considerably Democrat. It would be a 9-point win according to this model as of right now. And if we look at Nebraska's second, is still Democratic, and Hawaii would still be safe Democrat in this scenario. So even if Biden is winning the popular vote by 1.3 percentage points, which would be a 3-point error from the current polling aggregate, Trump still wins the electoral college. He would still be winning. I'm actually not from Minnesota, by the way. So that is a very Rob B. I think Trump will win the popular vote. Rob B. That is a very bold statement. I want Trump to win, but saying he will win the nationwide popular vote is nuts. It's not NF. It's not that far off. It's not that unrealistic. If you do the math in like Florida, so like look, we'll do the math. So like according to this model, right? Trump is winning Florida. Let's reset this so I could actually show you. It's really not that unrealistic. Look, if we go to Florida and we shift this to an 11-point victory, let's say it's an 11-point win for Trump, right? So let's say he's winning it by 11, like the model shows. That cuts Biden's margin down the popular vote by half a point. If Texas, right, let's go to Texas. If Trump is winning that by 11.6%, like the model shows, that cuts Biden's margin down by an entire point in the popular vote. If we were to go to New York and it showed as a 15-point win in the model, right? It's right above the 15-point margin. It's literally right above. So let's say that's the case. That cuts his lead even more. In California, if we were to go over here, it cuts down to a 22-point win. If we go all the way down to 22 points, for example, and this is me only touching the 4 biggest states in the union, by the way, the margin gets cut in half. So he's down at 2 points. So it's already, he's down by 2 already. And if we were to shift some of these rural states across a little bit more, which presumably a lot of these rural states would get a little bit more Republican. Iowa, for example, this was right above 15 points in the model. That kind of shifts the popular vote a tiny bit. Ohio, for example, was shifting a little bit, right above 15 points. That puts the popular vote below, right below there. And if we look at, for example, some of the swing states, so maybe we could touch Colorado. Colorado was an 8-point win in the model, for example. That's a 1.8 margin of victory there. If we look at New Mexico, that was only a 3-point win for Biden. That cuts the popular vote down even more. Virginia I believe Virginia was a 4.4 victory, right? That cuts the popular lead down even more. And New Hampshire gets cut down to like a 2-point lead. That cuts into it even more as well. And so it is not that unrealistic to say that Trump wins the popular vote. So if you shift all those states, that puts Biden literally a point ahead in the popular vote. And if you were to shift some of the swing states to some of these margins, for example, if Biden's really about to win, or Trump is really about to win Georgia by 4, if he's winning North Carolina by 7 points, right? Literally, I'm just going to play around with this. Literally, just play around with it and see what happens. See, he's above by a point. Well, if Trump is doing, I mean, it's going to trend to the left, but I don't think it's going to swing that much to the point where if Biden's winning the popular vote by only a point. Like if Biden's winning the popular vote by like 3 or even 2.5, then maybe it trends to the left, but I don't think it's gonna swing to the left. Even if the popular vote gets more, I don't think that's gonna be the case. In Pennsylvania, he's almost winning it by 5. If in Michigan, he's almost winning that by 5 as well. So let's say that's even the case. He's almost winning that by 5. In Wisconsin, let's say he is winning that by 5, which is what the model shows, right? So let's say that's the case as well. Let's go to Arizona. This was almost a 5-point win as well. And Nevada was classified as a 5-point win. That literally puts the margin in the popular vote at a tie. Oh, it's almost tied. And I haven't even touched the deep red states. I haven't touched them. And I also haven't even touched some of these states over here. I haven't even touched some of these. For example, New Jersey, it goes down to being, let's see what the model shows. It is about a 9-point victory for Biden. That shifts the popular vote even more. Look, he already won it. He's already ahead. So I haven't even touched some of the northeastern states, and I haven't even touched any of the deep rural red states. And based out of the margins from here, he's already winning the popular vote by a pretty significant amount. He's already winning it. Now, again, my model is not necessarily predicting what the popular vote's going to end up being, but is merely what the actual results are going to be, because realistically, the model is accounting for a polling error. So if you plug this in, you're not plugging in the popular vote, you're plugging in the RCP aggregate. So really what I should be doing is plugging in this RCP aggregate. And if I was plugging that in, Trump is winning the election very easily, guys. It would be a very easy victory for him. He would pretty much be winning, if you guys are ready for this, he would basically be winning. I'm going to fill these out so we can see them shaded in their colors. He'd flip Nebraska second. He'd flip Minnesota in New Mexico, and he'd flip Virginia. And he probably even flips New Hampshire. I think the only state he's not winning on here yet is probably Maine at large, which is still a 3-point win for Biden. Illinois under 5. Colorado's under 5 points. Delaware and Connecticut are under 10 points. California's almost below. All the major swing states are almost 10-point victories. Virginia is a lean R state. New Mexico's a 2.5-point win for Trump. So right now, Trump is going to be very favored to win the Electoral College by quite a bit as of the current RCP polling aggregate. It would be quite a significant amount. Rob B says, I think New York will go to the right a little. Not a little, I think by a decent amount. As well as Texas, I would say that too. I would say Biden, New York by 12 in New York. That seems pretty realistic. New polls say 10. Well, some polls have Biden only winning it in single digits, which I find pretty interesting that it is even that close. I'm actually kind of surprised that it would even be that close. So that's also concerning. That's also pretty concerning too. So, guys, as of right now, I do have to go work on some homework because it is the end of the semester for me at university. So I do have to go work on some stuff, but I will be streaming. I am going to try to stream almost every day. I have to be studying for finals. So I might not be able to stream every day for the next week, but as we approach AK subs, I am going to be streaming for most of the day. So for tomorrow, 100% at 7 or 8 p.m., I am going to be streaming, but I do have to go for now. So if you guys did enjoy this, please hit the like button. Everybody that's in here, please subscribe to the channel because I will be updating more people on this. I do want to keep you guys updated and posted with everything current news. And so please make sure to like the video, subscribe, make sure to hit post bell notifications, and make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And I hope to see you guys very, very soon. I'm going to let everybody in the chat right now. For those who haven't subscribed or liked the video, please subscribe. Please like it. I really would appreciate the support on here. So I will see you guys very, very soon.